Hello and welcome back to our channel. Hope you all are doing well. Let us continue with AS10 property, plant and equipment, and in this lecture we will be studying all about depreciation. So let's begin. Now to understand depreciation, we need to understand what is depreciable amount. It is cost of an asset or other amount substituted for cost less its residual value. So cost minus residual value is nothing but depreciable amount. And what is residual value? It is that value that you can obtain for the fixed asset at the end of its useful life. Then what is depreciation? It is systematic allocation of this depreciable amount over the useful life of the asset. So for example, the cost of an asset is, let's say, 10 lakh rupees and its residual value is 50,000. So depreciable amount in this case is 10 lakhs minus 50, and that is 9,50,000. 9,50,000 is our depreciable amount. This 9,50,000 has to be charged over the useful life of this asset, and whatever is that particular amount will be known as depreciation in each year. Moving further, what is zero depreciation? If residual value of an asset is equal to or greater than its carrying amount, then depreciation charge of the asset is zero unless and until its residual value subsequently decreases to an amount below the carrying amount. Now again, let's take an example to understand this case. Let's say carrying amount of the asset, that is the value recorded in the balance sheet, is presently 50,000 and the residual value of this asset is 80,000 rupees. Then in this case, since the residual value is greater than the carrying amount, there will be no depreciation charge, that is, there will be zero depreciation. However, subsequently in future years, when this residual value decreases and goes to an amount below the carrying amount, for example it is 20,000 rupees, then in that case again depreciation will be charged. Now moving further, depreciation, explanation for treatment of parts. What if one property, plant and equipment has multiple parts? Then how should depreciation be charged? Let us understand. Firstly, part with a cost significant in relation to total cost of the PPE item, example airframe and engines of an aircraft. These are two separate parts. Then amount initially recognized in respect of such items is allocated to its significant parts and depreciated separately. So if you look at the image, you can see that two significant parts are visible, that is the airframe, the body of the aircraft, and its engine. Now the engine has a very significant value in relation to total cost of the airplane. So therefore it becomes necessary to depreciate them separately, because the engine may have a separate useful life or different useful life compared to its body. So if we take an example in terms of numbers, let's say the cost of the total airplane. Cost of the total airplane is 10 lakhs rupees. For simplicity's sake, let's take a small amount. The cost of the airplane is 10 lakh rupees and it is divided between its body and the engine. So the airframe actually costs 7 lakh rupees, whereas the engine, that costs 3 lakh rupees, and that is how you have the total cost of the airplane as 10 lakh rupees. Now this airplane may have been purchased by paying the consolidated amount of 10 lakh rupees, but it becomes necessary to separate this into the airframe and the engine, because both of them need to be depreciated separately. They may be having a different useful life. Now if you see 3 lakhs, that is the cost of the engine, in relation to the total cost of 10 lakhs is a very significant amount. It is 30% of the total cost of the aircraft. Then it is necessary to depreciate the engine separately and the airframe separately. Moving further, two significant parts of a PPE item having the same useful life and depreciation method, then such parts may be grouped in determining the depreciation charge. Now if you look at this picture, you can see this spacecraft has two identical rockets. Now both of these rockets are identical in nature completely and they have the same useful life. So what can be done is the entire the spacecraft can be depreciated separately and these two rockets can be depreciated separately because both of these rockets put together will have the same useful life. So therefore you can club these two and determine the depreciation charge for a particular year. Then further, significant parts of a PPE are depreciated separately and the remainder consisting of parts that are individual insignificant. Approximation techniques that represent its consumption pattern and or useful life may be used. Now if you look at this image, a helicopter has lakhs of parts put together. Then should you charge depreciation separately on all of those parts? It is not practically possible. So what is done is, we have already studied that significant parts should be depreciated separately. Then what about the remainder parts that are very insignificant in value? They may be all put together and some approximation technique may be used, and whatever is the pattern of consumption, that is the benefit derived from those parts, may be determined and depreciation will be charged accordingly for those insignificant parts. Then again, parts of PPE that do not have a significant cost in relation to the total cost of the PPE. In this case, these may be depreciated separately if the enterprise chooses so. So if there are numerous parts, but their individual costs are very insignificant in relation to the total cost, then the enterprise may choose to depreciate them separately if it is practical to do so. But this will have to be determined in each organization separately. So if it is practically possible to depreciate each part separately, then the enterprise may choose to depreciate them separately. Then the next important discussion is separable assets, that is land and building, in which buildings have a limited useful life and land has an unlimited useful life. Then in such cases, compulsorily they are accounted separately even if they are acquired together. So if you look at the picture here, there is a piece of land and some constructed building on it. And even though one consolidated price is paid for acquisition of this land and building, they have to be accounted separately because the building has a limited useful life whereas the land has unlimited useful life. So building will be depreciated, but since land has unlimited useful life, there will be no depreciation on land. But what if land is of such a form where it has limited useful life? For example, stone quarries or coal mines, etc., they have a limited useful life. Once all the minerals and ores have been extracted from that land, then that land in future has no benefit. Then in that cases, it is depreciated in a manner that reflects the benefits derived from it. So whatever is the pattern of benefits derived from that particular piece of land which has a limited useful life, depreciation will be charged in relation to that pattern of benefits. Then moving forward, recognition of depreciation. How do you account for depreciation in the books of accounts? In general situations, it is debited to profit and loss account. For example, depreciation on computers, vans, office furniture, etc. However, when future economic benefits embodied in an asset are absorbed in producing other assets, then in those cases, it should be added to the carrying amount of such other asset. For example, depreciation on manufacturing equipment is included in the conversion cost of inventories. Now to understand this, let us take an example. You have one asset that is used in the manufacturing of your output, which is sold and you earn profit from that sale. This depreciation on the manufacturing equipment will not straight away go to profit and loss account. It should be added to the cost of inventories. It is very specifically given that it should be added to the conversion cost of such inventories. So therefore, the cost of those inventories will increase by the depreciation amount of such assets that are specifically used only for the production of those inventories. Now, moving forward, what is the period of depreciation? Depreciation should be charged for what amount of period? Let us see. It should be charged from when an asset is available for use That is, when it is in the location and condition necessary for it to be capable of operating in the manner intended by management. Now the important point to note is depreciation should start immediately when the asset is available for use. It is not put to use. Even in those cases, depreciation will be charged. It is not a necessary condition that the asset should be used every year. In some cases, where the asset is not used in any particular year, then also depreciation will be charged in those years. So the important point was the asset, the moment it is available for use, depreciation should be started to charge to profit and loss account. Until what date should such depreciation be charged? It should be charged till the earlier of the following two dates. The first is date that the asset is retired from active use and held for disposal, and date that the asset is derecognized. Let us understand these two dates one by one. The first says that date the asset is retired from active use and held for disposal. The meaning of that is you have finished using that asset. In future, you are no longer going to use such asset, and you have retired from active use, which means you have stopped using such asset and your intention is to sell this asset in the next few coming days or months. In those cases, depreciation should be charged till this date only. Or date the asset is derecognized, which means the asset is directly sold off or it is dismantled and thrown away. In these two cases, the asset is said to be derecognized, which means eliminated from the balance sheet. Then whichever date occurs earlier, depreciation should be charged till that date. Now moving further, what are the methods of depreciation? There are multiple ways of charging depreciation. However, AS10 specifies only three methods, and that is the straight line method, wherein you have constant charge over the useful life. Depreciation will be the same. Or diminishing balance method, decreasing charge over the useful life. Depreciation will keep on decreasing every year. Or you have units of production method, wherein charge is based on the expected user output, wherein depreciation can change. In years where there is higher output or higher use, depreciation may be more, and in years where there is less output, depreciation will be less. Now, whatever method of depreciation an organization chooses to use, it should satisfy these three factors, and that is consistency. That means whatever depreciation is suitable for that organization, it should choose so, and depreciation should be charged by that method only from one period to another. So there should be consistency in the method of depreciation. The next is revenue basis is inappropriate. Now the meaning of that is depreciation should not be charged in proportion to sales of that particular entity. Is depreciation directly related to sales? The answer is no, because sales is dependent on many other factors like external demand and supply, government policies, taxation policies, etc. So sales does not directly depend on the output produced by a particular property, plant and equipment. So therefore depreciation should not be charged in proportion to sales. And finally you have disclosure, that is whatever method of depreciation is used should be disclosed by that organization in its notes to accounts, and not only the method but also the useful life of that particular asset and the reason why a particular method was chosen should be stated by that organization. Now moving forward, you have review and revision in relation to depreciation under AS10. Let us understand what this is. The following should be reviewed at least at each financial year end, and that is review and revision should be done in residual value and useful life as well as the depreciation method. The meaning of review and revision is certain concepts in relation to depreciation may need to be reviewed because they keep changing. For example, residual value. An estimate made earlier of the residual value may change after a few years. Then in that case, depreciation amount to be charged also will change. So there should be a review, and in case there is a change, then revision also should be made in those particular matters. So for example, residual value earlier was estimated at 50,000 rupees, but in future years you come to know that residual value may be only 20,000 rupees. Then the amount of depreciation should be changed. Also, useful life earlier was determined at only 8 years, but now you come to know that the asset can be used for totally 10 years. Then since the useful life has changed, the depreciation amount also will change. All these changes need to be accounted for in the books of accounts, and this review and revision should be done every financial year end. There may be also a change in depreciation method. Then in that case also, the amount of depreciation is going to change. All these should be accounted for in the books of accounts. Is charging of depreciation on property, plant and equipment compulsory? This is a very important question. The answer is yes. Depreciation is recognized even if fair value of the asset exceeds its carrying amount. For example, fair value of the asset is 10 lakh rupees and its carrying amount is only 8 lakh rupees. In that case also, where fair value is greater than carrying amount, depreciation will still be charged. Or repairs and maintenance is charged on the asset. Just because the asset is regularly serviced and is kept in top condition, it is maintained regularly, does not mean depreciation will not be charged on that asset. Even if regular repairs and maintenance are being carried out on that asset, it will still have to be depreciated. And depreciation will be recognized even if asset becomes idle or is retired from active use but not held for disposal. Meaning of that is, the asset may be stopped using in the organization, but its intention is not to sell that asset. Then in that case, depreciation will continue to be charged in those years where the asset was not used. The important point to note is that it was retired from active use, that it was stopped from being used, but the intention of the organization is not to sell the asset. Then in that case, the years in which it was not used, in those years also depreciation will be charged. Now, what are the factors considered in determining the useful life of the asset? How do you determine what is the useful life of the asset? The useful life of an asset may change from every organization to organization because the expected use from that asset may be different from each organization. So expected usage of the asset may be used to determine the life, or expected physical wear and tear, technological or commercial obsolescence, which means how likely is that asset likely to be outdated technologically or otherwise, and any other legal or similar limits on the use. Is there a restriction on the use of that asset because of law or any other limit? Then all these factors will be used in determining the useful life of that asset. Now these were the matters relating to depreciation of property, plant and equipment. In case you have any doubts or queries, you can definitely call or text on any of these two numbers. And if you have found this video useful, please like and share our video as well as subscribe to our channel. Thank you.